Now, look, let's talk about the not guilty verdict in the case of Daniel Penny, who had been charged with negligent homicide in the chokehold death of black man Jordan Neely. This happened on a New York City subway car back in 2023. Now, for those at home, Daniel Penny, he's a 26-year-old Marine veteran. The judge dismissed the charge after jurors said that they could not come to a unanimous decision. And here was Daniel Penny speaking with Fox News after that verdict.
I'll take 1 million court appearances and people calling me names and people hating me just to keep one of those people from getting hurt or killed.
Batya, the left have been up in arms about this. They tried to make this a divisive issue over race. Clearly it was not. I mean, but we can hardly be surprised, can we, that the left always make it a racial problem?
Absolutely. And what Daniel Penny said in that Fox interview was he could not have lived with himself if Jordan Neely, who was high on drugs, had harmed one of the subway riders who he was threatening. Daniel Penny said, I would take this trial any day of the year over having to live with myself for sitting idly by if Jordan Neely had hurt somebody. And what you saw there was what the trial was actually about, which is this was not about race. This was about masculinity. Daniel Penny was a man who understood what that meant. His job was to protect the vulnerable, the women and children on that subway car who were being threatened. And what the left tried to do was criminalize masculinity, right? They tried to put him in prison for doing what a man is supposed to do, which is say, I cannot live with myself if I sit here and let women and children be harmed. And it's really an amazing moment in our country because it turns out that that jury said, actually, we will not allow you to criminalize masculinity. We will show this man that we respect what he did. And honestly, I think that a lot of the criticism of Daniel Penny is coming from men, beta males, weak men who know that they don't have the guts and the courage to stand up and do what's right. And because of that, they can't stand to see a man stand up and do what a man is supposed to do.
And it's such a shame. You're spot on. And I want to play you these comments by the perpetually outraged, nonsensical Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, basically suggesting that subway riders should be scared of Daniel Penny. Have a listen.
If we do not want violence on our subways, and the point of our justice system is a level of accountability to prevent a person who does not have remorse about taking another person's life. I mean, even people who have engaged in manslaughter or have taken a life accidentally express remorse. And so the fact that a person may express no remorse indicates that there's a risk that it may happen again.
Oh, unbelievable, Batya. How dangerous are these sorts of comments?
Well, I think what they wanted was for the trial to have a chilling effect on men standing up for women. They wanted other people to say, wow, I'm really not going to do that if this is how you're going to get treated for doing that. Honestly, I think it did have that effect. Even before that, I had noticed as someone who rides the subway all the time that often you will have a situation where a person is acting in an unfortunate way and the men just look away and pretend that it's not happening. It's really quite devastating. So they've had their intended impact because, of course, the left has been criminalizing masculinity for decades now. I mean, that's what the Me Too movement was all about. It was about saying if you're a man with masculine urges, this is now a crime. And of course, now we're having a mating crisis, right? Where men feel that they can't even flirt with women. They can't even approach women in bars because who knows if that's going to be misconstrued as being harassment or some sort of crime. And I think that this is really a Rubicon for our country. We're staring down what the impact of saying that men should be ashamed of being masculine, ashamed of wanting to provide for women, ashamed of wanting to protect women. This is a crisis for our civilization. And I think that people are starting to wake up.
Absolutely. It's a shame as well that it's gotten to this in this day and age. Now, look, let's move on. There's been a lot of debate around FBI Director Christopher Wray. He is reportedly contemplating whether or not to resign. Now, this is because Donald Trump wants to replace Wray, who is 7 years into a 10-year term with Kash Patel. But yeah, Kash Patel is a great pick in my view. But how do you see this now playing out?
Honestly, honestly, Donald Trump has every right to appoint the cabinet that he wants to appoint. The idea that he should be tethered to appointees who actively undermined him, not just while he was in office, but every minute since, I think is ludicrous. It's a standard that the Democrats would never in a million years accept for themselves. And yet when Donald Trump does the most normal, obvious thing, they have to make a big stink about it and act like it is him that is breaking the norms. And this is the important thing to keep in mind. When it comes to the Democrats, every accusation is a confession. When they say that it is the right that's breaking norms, it's because they're doing it. When they say that the right is weaponizing the justice system, it's because they have spent the last 4 years doing that. When they say that the right is peddling misinformation, that is their bread and butter. Every accusation from these people is a confession.
Absolutely, and they're always caught out in the end. So, yeah, it's just crazy. Now, look, let's talk about Joe Biden pardoning his crackhead son, Hunter. And now a report by Politico alleges that Biden's senior aides are contemplating issuing preemptive pardons to a number of officials that they think might be in the line of fire during Trump's next term. Batya, who do you think Biden may possibly help next, and what does this all mean?
So the names that were floated in the Politico expose were Liz Cheney, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and Adam Schiff. And what this really says is that the Democrats believe that these people and others have committed crimes or things that are plausibly interpreted as crimes, and that they think that these crimes should not be investigated. Indeed, it is to admit on their part that they believe that people on their side may have done things wrong, but that they would never, ever indict them for them, and that they're going to preemptively make it impossible for the rule of law to catch up with these people because they are on the Democrats' side. It is effectively to say that they do not believe that the rule of law applies to them. Their side is above the law. That's what a preemptive pardon is. And if Joe Biden goes through with this, it will just be so devastating, but also so revealing. I mean, all of their claims to having the moral high ground will finally and forever be put to bed. So I really hope that he does not go through with this, because for them to truly come out and admit they don't believe in the rule of law anymore, I mean, at that point, all bets will really be off.
Yeah, certainly. Look, I wouldn't put it past the Democrats or Joe Biden, let's be honest. Now, before we let you go, this is a fascinating new report which looked at company statements, annual reports and other documents from every Fortune 500 company, and it found that virtually all of them have maintained their commitments to DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion. But yeah, here we go again. Everyone gets a go in these woke companies.
It's so amazing. The United States has undergone a political realignment to where the wealthy are now on the side of the wokes. So, you know, something like 75% of hedge fund donations that went to political parties this year went to Democrats. 95% of donations from the top three professional managerial companies went to Democrats. 75% of Silicon Valley donations went to Democrats. 65% of Americans who make more than $500,000 a year now live in Democrat-controlled areas. And so the rich are now the liberals and the wokes, and the working class, meanwhile, working class Black men, working class Hispanic men, working class men and women of all races are now in the Trump camp, in the MAGA movement. And that realignment you're going to keep seeing over and over and over in things like this, where very wealthy people love DEI, they love woke, they love all of this stuff because it lets them feel like they are the good guys when actually they are the rich guys, and their interests are very much at odds with those of the working class.
All the time. Batya Ungar-Sargon, I love your analysis. Thank you very much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.